say hello. I give them a live on the YouTube.
Live on the YouTube. That sounds pretty important.
I'm trying. Oh, there we are. I found us. There we go.
Okay. There you go. You caught the as you smooth.
I did.
You smoke.
Now I get to look at myself, looking at myself. There we go. We're going to set that up. And do it like
Very
this.
good. So I get to see a little bit of okay.
Look at that.
There you go.
You got 4 people on,
Yeah.
4 people on, coming on, people.
All right.
Look at that. Somebody gave
Yeah.
those sweet lovins. Okay.
I like it. Okay. Well, let's get the show started. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. We are here for the morning grind. My name is Shane Wheeler with Premier Mortgage Group, and I have a very, very special guest on the show today, Kara Kemp.
Hi.
Yeah, everybody.
Oh, yes.
Kara, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Nice to be here.
We take this time on Tuesdays to focus on what I like to call my present moment practice. And so it's an opportunity for us to, we talk about life and business and all the different things that we kind of deal with as we go. But I really feel like a present moment practice is something that means a lot to me. And so I share that with other people, and they then share some of those experiences with me. And so it struck me that one of the things that is really paramount to understanding yourself in the present moment is the stories that we tell ourselves and that we tell each other and that we listen and watch and absorb from others. And I just really wanted to get into a little bit with you this morning what storytelling means. We're all storytellers. We may not all perform on stage like yourself and many of the people that you know, but we're storytellers nonetheless, right? And we're also a part of everyone else's story because you can't have a story without that co-creation, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you very much for coming in and sharing some of that with us this morning. We'll get into that in just a moment, but the first thing that we do when we start the show is 60 seconds of gratitude.
Yes.
Which, another interesting thing is if in the present moment, you cannot be grateful any other time but in the present moment.
All right. Yeah.
That is when that happens. So, as our guest this morning, what is it that you're grateful for this morning?
Well, thankfully, every morning I have a gratitude practice. It's a 2-minute practice for me instead of 60 seconds.
Look at this. Outperforming everyone in the room. Everyone in the room is now second place. That's the story we're telling.
You're welcome, everyone. But it starts with gratitude, and then what I'm going to let go of, and then what I'm going to focus on for the day.
Okay.
But the gratitude piece this morning was I was grateful for being able to check a lot of things off the list that I can make space for the new things that are coming in my direction. I was grateful for my husband, which he will tell you doesn't happen enough for me to say that I'm grateful for him.
He's probably doing his own show this morning.
He probably is.
I think they do a show every Tuesday morning. Tony Woodall.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he probably is.
I was thinking about that. I was like, that's why I don't see his show.
Dueling live podcast. And just grateful that I got some really good sleep last night after not having some very good sleep with all those lists I was doing.
Sure enough. Cameron, what are you grateful for this morning? 60 seconds of gratitude.
I'm grateful for being in a business to where opportunities all around, rather than a 9 to 5, and I'm just kind of feel stuck in that.
All right. Now, I would submit to you that the business that you're in is not any of those things and is not changed at all. But the story that you're telling yourself is one of opportunity. And you know what? You're right. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Noah, we're grateful to have you this morning. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful that
Getting to meet Kara?
Yeah.
Again?
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, very, very grateful for that. Very grateful. I'm also grateful that I was able to go out and play golf
All
with
right.
my boys and represent John Jones Real Estate out
Nice.
there at the country club.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give
what
you a
was
golf
it?
club for that one.
The tournament was for. I can't remember.
For the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good job getting out of the community. Travis, what you grateful for?
A happy and healthy family.
Oh, nice.
Oh, very good. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for great mentors around me and wonderful health.
Yeah. Okay,
Nice.
I got you.
So yesterday I found out that I'm gonna be getting to go to Cancun to meet up with my Peruvian family in July. That I
Wow.
haven't seen since I was maybe 12. So I'm
Oh,
super
wow.
excited. I'm gonna get to
Nice.
see my grandma, and she used to raise me. So
That is something
Yeah,
to be
very
grateful
thankful.
for.
What a connection.
Yes. Josh?
Grateful that I got kicked off the show.
Oh, man, I knew this was coming.
That I got a Tuesday to relax.
Yeah.
I'm actually grateful I got to meet Miss Carol.
Yes, absolutely.
Feeling is mutual, Josh.
Thank you.
Okay, so Kara, if you want to check in and see if anybody has popped in on us to say hello, I think I'm supposed to at this point. I don't have my reliable co-host Josh, so
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm channeling my inner Josh. I've got to tell people to like, comment, and share the stream.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna tell everyone just a little bit about Kara. You know, we have Kara in with us this morning, and we're really fortunate because Kara has been has dedicated a lifetime to storytelling and creativity and how it intertwines with daily life and with work and professional, family, all manner of life, because the stories that we weave do truly create a fabric for our lives that encompass all of these things. You can't separate them out completely. And so, you know, you would want to know that Kara is the current, like last year, 2021, was named the United Way Volunteer of the Year for Rutherford and Cannon counties.
No.
You know, none of us are worthy. I will just tell you that
So
now.
true.
And she's also just been recognized by the Nashville Business Journal as a woman of influence. Now,
Yeah.
a couple things
Thank
that are
you.
interesting about that is these are the stories that people are telling about her, right? So you have to understand there's two parts of the story. There's what you're doing to be a co-creator in the story, and then there's the stories that everybody else has about you. Sometimes they're true, sometimes they're not.
I know. Depends on when it was in my life.
Sometimes
The
I take
stories that I'll
credit.
claim and the
It's
stories that I won't.
Yeah, and my stories change sometimes, so there is that. Anyway. Okay, so really thankful for having you here this morning.
Thank you.
And I think that one of the things that is interesting to me is the stories that we do tell ourselves. So, for example, in sales, and all of you are in sales on some level, when you get to know someone, the first thing that you're going to want to do is get to know their story, right? You need to know kind of where they're coming from and what they're working on, those kinds of things. And so, Kara, one of the things I wanted to ask is, when people are starting to get to know someone and they get to know their story and they get to ask them their story, if you have someone who's maybe not great at telling their story, how do you kind of get a story out of someone?
Well, I mean, you always want to start with where they're passionate. But if you lead with, hey, what are you passionate about? They're probably going to shut down a little bit. We often tend to be pretty humble about those things. But you start asking the questions that inspire a little more curiosity.
Okay.
What are you interested in is probably a little bit easier than passionate about. Or how do you spend your time versus what do you do for a job, right? Because they are expecting you to ask those questions, but not like the question of what do you do for your job? They expect that. Everybody asks them all the time. But if you say, how do you spend your free time? What gets you really excited about what's happening in the community? You have to stop and think, and that engages the brain just a little bit. You can also start asking yourself that, right? And it engages it just a little bit more.
So what are some of the questions from a real estate perspective? If people are moving to the area or they're wanting to move across town, I mean, what are some of the questions that you lead with when you start getting to know someone? What are some of the questions? Because I know you could jump right to what's the per foot price, what's the per square foot price and what's the interest rate? I mean, but that's not really what happens, right? How do you uncover with the customer and get them talking about how they spend their free time or why they're moving? How does that play in the process?
Yeah, so how you can ask questions without asking it so direct, like you said.
Oh,
Oh.
Very simple question.
Oh.
I have mine, but they have theirs.
Okay, all
Okay.
right, so everybody's got a question? I don't have a question I
Uh-huh.
can go
I always
to.
like to ask the first fact-finding question to get a time frame of when they're looking to move, and typically it's like not just direct, hey, when are you looking to move, but let's go from 2 days to 2 years, when would you consider buying? Right, and that consider word is a lot softer. 2 days to 2 years gives them a range where they can kind of pick one out and not have to, put it on a definite number. So
And then you get to dig
then you get a
into,
time range.
Yeah.
Then you say, I'm a year out. You ask why, and then
Yes.
they start. That why question is so powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they just go very in depth with why. Right?
Exactly. I mean, even when we went around for the 60 seconds of gratitude, none of you all reached into like, well, I've fed my dog this morning, or I got to connect with my friends and we played golf, and I'm going to reconnect with family that I haven't seen since I was 12. Those pieces about the relationship and why
Yeah.
are the drivers
Absolutely.
of that motivation. It's
Absolutely.
brilliant.
Josh, what was your question? You said you had
Oh,
one.
I was gonna say, I didn't have a question.
Oh.
The question, it's like an ice-breaking question whenever I talk to somebody first, to get them to open up. If you were to consider buying a house, would it be bigger or smaller than what you're currently living in now? And then they say, small.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
And they just ramble on and give me so much information from 2 questions.
Right.
Is it important to know someone's story at all before you figure out a way to help them professionally?
Of course.
Why is that? Why is it important to know someone's story?
I feel like you just will relate to them more than you would if you just were asking like open-ended questions than you didn't. You know what I mean?
Well, especially in sales, the why, we call it the DBM. It's the dominant buying motive.
Okay.
So when they get to the point to where they're stalling or, they're having a hard time making a decision, we bring it back to that dominant buying motive and say, hey, well, look, when we first met and we first talked and got to know each other, you said you want to get away from renting, right? You've been renting them for 5-10 years, or, you're downsizing because your kids moved out so you don't need this much space. Remember what you said, and we bring it back to it, right? So it's very important to know why people
Yeah,
do
to
it.
know the
Right.
story, because
Right.
if their dominant buying motive or the reason that they were moving is because they need to get in their mind for their story and their reality, they need their children to be in this specific school district. So then if you lose sight of that part of their story and you're focused on return on investment, then you're missing out on how to help that person write the next chapter of their story, right? You've got
Right.
to pay attention to their story because that's what matters. Not your story, their story. Your story is, I want to get some sales because I got to pay for my car and keep my lights on, right?
Right.
Their story is, I'm trying to relocate my family so my children can go to school where I want them to go to school, or whatever the case may be. So I think it's awfully important to pay attention to story and realize that everybody's got one.
For sure. And every good story creates more space than it uses. So to be able to maximize the time and what you have with someone, and even the relationship, which may be at that moment really small or tenuous, if you have a good story, if they have a story that you're listening to, that story itself is going to create more space for that relationship to grow, right?
Yeah, do you feel like you know someone better when you know their story?
For sure. And I mean, being the GM at Tangerine, everybody sits in a chair and they tell their story,
That,
right?
is that not so salon, barbershop, I mean, is that not the ultimate storytelling
It
place?
is the best
How many times have you
storytelling
seen
place.
people come in and you think they don't have any desire or interest in telling a story at all, and they sit down all of a sudden, boop, 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 because it just, I don't know, is it just me?
Mm-hmm.
But
It's the atmosphere. I think.
it's just the atmosphere. It's almost like maybe I feel like, I don't know, but it's a
it's-
storytelling mecca.
It is, but it's also one of the few places, if you think about our society, we don't actually physically touch each other anymore. You might give somebody a handshake when you meet them, you may make eye contact, but in that particular industry, the ability to actually physically touch someone and it be permitted and okay, physical touch is its own story as
Yeah.
well. But it allows people to relax and start to tell their story.
That is interesting. I didn't really think about it. It's one of the few times that you give license for that kind of close personal contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay. So, along the lines of storytelling, we think that it's important to get to know what someone else's story is, right? But I think it's just as important, or really more important, initially to have some connection to what your own story is.
For sure.
So talk about that for a minute as it relates to just kind of day-to-day life, but then the things that you see in business and in the coaching that you do, those kinds of things. How important it is to be tuned into. To me, it's not really a matter of right, wrong, or all the different judgments and assertions that you can make about different people's stories and what they tell themselves. All of those things are kind of in one space. So I kind of tend to say that rather than critiquing your own story before you've even started, right? The idea, I think, is to bring attention in stillness in the present moment so that you can be in tune with what your story currently is.
Sure.
So I found myself sometimes, and I found myself at times in the past where I may be a little rudderless, a little kind of, next thing to next thing to next thing. And so for me, that present moment practice helps me get tuned into my story a little bit.
Right.
And so talk about that a little bit, how important it is, the story that you tell yourself, and how important it is to stay tuned into yourself and your story.
Right. So since we're here with in the real estate division today, I liken it to a house and a
Okay.
really strong foundation, right? So how you start your morning is how you set the foundation for the house that you are building that day. My practice of the 2-minute gratitude awesomeness practice is that small soft focus for that particular day. But of course, if you pan out and you look at the perspective of what you need to achieve in a month or what you need to achieve in the year, those are all bricks and layers in that foundation of how you're going to build that house.
That's interesting.
So the importance of knowing why you're building the house, just like you ask why to those people you're trying to connect with, you have to ask yourself first, like, why am I doing this? Because it will be your motivation, but will also allow you to be calm and make decisions from that why and make the better, clearer decisions for that why, but also give you enough strength in that foundation that if something comes along that you weren't expecting, that it doesn't just completely, knock you over or blow you over, that you're like, okay, well, that's all right, I'm going to pivot. I mean, we all learned to pivot in 2020, right? Like, we all thought, things are great, we're cool, it's a great year, I'm going to have it, and then all of a sudden, bam, our knees
Right.
were knocked out from under us.
Which is another thing. As your story continues to evolve, those are things that you glean from your own story. You are a survivor. You are
Sure.
a person that can roll with the punches. You are a person that, as your story sort of builds.
Yeah.
And so it's always interesting to both draw strength from and kind of rally around your own story, but then you also can't believe it too much because it really has a certain impermanence as well, right? So
Sure.
I see myself as a father and a husband and all these different things, but those are just roles. Those are stories that we tell ourselves, and so I think it's important to stay cognizant of the fact that as you're telling the story, then you meet yourself in different places. There are times when your story has you in maybe a low spot,
Yeah.
or a high spot. And those become pointers, but then in that present moment, that gratitude practice, that soft focus on the near term and the long term vision just become important in telling the story every day, I think.
Yeah.
If you find yourself in a space where you start to lose yourself, then you can come back to your story. And I think it can serve a purpose
Yeah.
at that point.
I agree with that. I would say, it's very important to know that why. Like you guys are saying, you pretty much saying what I'm about to say, but because when you do go through these peaks and valleys and you do come to these times of adversity, it's easier to commit, right? Because committing is not giving yourself any other options. So if you know exactly why you're doing it and you're committed to it, right? So when you hit these times of adversity, you have no other options, right? You're going right towards it and you're not going to stop, right? So in this business, say, it was slowing down. Let's say the market did take a little curve, right? If I, knew my why, I knew my DBM or, whatever you
For
want
yourself?
to call it, right?
Yeah, your
For
DBM.
myself, right?
Writing that down, DBM.
Turn in the other direction, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Like it.
Right,
So let's talk about that. I mean, I've been doing loans and been in real estate finance for over 25 years. I can tell you right now, if any of you were under the mistaken impression that the market goes in a straight line, let me just go ahead and tell you now, get used to the fact that it doesn't. But the story you tell yourself becomes important. So for example, if you have a market shift, right, then you can say one of two things. If the market shifts, it's going to shift, and it just shifts. Nothing you can do about it, that's what happens. The story that you tell yourself is all that matters, because you have to be able to understand the importance of story, understand the importance of your story, and understand that you can't divorce yourself from the facts. But that is not the same thing as being able to take control of the story. Here's an example. Basically, compliance doesn't come hunt me down and cause me big issues. But
Man.
anytime we talk about interest rates, it's a real touchy thing. I'm not giving any APRs. I am a licensed mortgage professional, NMLS number 829177.
Okay, good. Got it covered. Good.
Okay, so if you're in a market where the rates go from 3 to 6 in 4 months, which it just did, right? So then the story that you tell yourself is what's important. You can either say, gosh, the market really changed, and so now I just don't know if I'm going to be able to help as many people as I could before. You could tell yourself that story, and you can see where that limiting belief is in what you've asserted to be. You can't change the facts. You can't say, well, I'm going to do the same thing today that I did yesterday because interest rates are the same as they were. That would not be, that's like toxic happiness or like blowing over or papering over what a reality is. No, the reality is the market shifted, but the reality is I'm someone who is dedicated to the craft of helping my people get from point A to point B in the best shape possible with the least expense. That is my job in life. So now, if the market has shifted, then my people need me now more than ever.
Sure.
I'm a professional dedicated to help them solve this challenge. So instead of wondering where I'm going to be able to now help, I now see myself as even more in demand. And the truth is, both things are true. It all depends on the story that you choose to tell yourself. If you tell yourself the first story, then you'll be doing something different in 2 years. If you tell yourself the second story, you're going to be sitting along Noah with more business than you can do. Okay? That is the power of story. Everybody else that's out there is saying, wow, the market just changed. I was approved for a $300,000 house last year, and now I can only buy a $250,000. What does that mean? Well, what they're saying is, my story is, I don't understand how to move to the next spot in this market, and this is a little thing that's just popped up that just makes it more difficult for me to see the rest of my story. That's where you guys come in. You got to eliminate that block, tell them what the real story is. Hey, this means that we may be able to have more opportunities to help you get into a house with a little less competition.
Yeah.
All of these things are true at the same time.
Right.
And you cannot divorce yourself from the facts, and you can't move yourself into a productive real estate practice or sales practice or salon practice or any other practice remaining divorced from the facts.
Yeah.
But you get to control the story.
So story essentially is creative thinking, right?
It is.
And creative thinking is the number one business skill in all of the workforces right now. And you have creativity is the driver of the thinking, innovation part, but the curiosity is the driver of that creativity. So digging into your why, getting into creative thinking, which is problem solving, but it's also problem finding.
Right.
And all of it is is anchored in that story.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Nice,
so here we
look at
are.
you.
We're in a situation where the market
You're the storyteller.
The market has given us a gift.
Yeah.
The market has given us a gift. The market, the universe, the force that goes through all the things that we do in our particular area of the world, it's given us a gift. And it's saying, hey, you know what? We're going to make some changes that give you new opportunities to tell new stories. So again, it goes back to your foundation. If you start your day and you say to yourself, I just don't know if I can do this. I just don't know if I'm in the right spot. I just don't know if if that's where your story is, then as these things pop up, then your story is, I've told myself that I'm a person that's unsure as to what direction I'm going. I'm a person who says to myself, I can learn no more new things because I've turned the creative volume, the creative valve has been shut off. So now I'm limited to what I can see on this paper and what I can read in this book. And you can see how limiting that belief is. So then when those opportunities come up to do something for your people or to do something unique, it just completely passes you by because you've already told yourself, I'm not that person. The difference in that and I'm a person who looks for opportunities to help, looks for creative solutions. I understand that there are many solutions to get to a resolution, and I'm open to all of them. Do you see the difference? And it just really depends on story. So, story is super important. I think it weaves in perfectly with a present moment practice because you also have to understand that stories continue to evolve. When you meet people, if you ever met me and you met me on my very worst day or my very lowest day, then you probably would not want to do business with me and know me because I was probably in a really bad spot that day. But when you meet people on their worst day or you meet people on their best day, it's all part of their story. So keep pushing through and keep looking for how you can help them. Okay, so thank you very much. And
Wow, thank you.
speaking of storytelling and volunteering and community and being a part of the community, Kara is the rainmaker for a very special event that comes once a year in Murfreesboro, and I'm going to encourage everyone to get involved.
I do too.
You cannot,
Ridiculous.
you just can't let this year go by
No.
without being at this event.
You can't.
Trust me, you will
Don't.
walk in, your story will change.
It will.
Oh, wait a minute. There's one thing I have to say about story.
Oh, okay, yes.
Super important.
I was just being built up, but it's
Yes.
okay.
Well,
Let me pause.
It gives time for yet another build up, which is fantastic.
All right.
So the thing about story is, in looking at United We Style and talking about story recently on the Bloom stage, we were talking about this. In stories, there's a part in a story where you can't go back, and I can't remember what they call that point, but there's a point in a story where, as a reader, what makes that story happen is that moment in the story when you can't go back. You can never go back to the beginning of the story and feel the same way. And so I would tell you that United We Style is one of those moments in your story. If you go to this event, then when you leave this event, I can promise you, you will not be the same person as when you walked in that day.
Thank
That
you.
is story. That is the power of story. And so tell everybody about the event, how they can come, how they can get involved, and this year's a very special, it's 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, this year is our 10th year of doing United We Style, and it has, the story of United We Style shifted and changed. What has been consistent is it's a fundraiser for United Way of Rutherford and Cannon counties, but how we have conceived of this event has changed over time based on the needs of our people that have been involved in it as it has changed. So now it is on stage, you get a band, a full house band, you get a stylist on stage doing hair, and a storyteller. Sounds like the weirdest thing you would ever go to, but it works. And as most of my events, they need to be experienced better than they are explained. But it has turned out to be, we bring in community leaders who are involved in United Way in some capacity. Shannon was a storyteller last year, so he got in the hot seat and had to tell a story, even though he didn't feel like he was a professional storyteller. Clearly, it has changed his belief of story. But we have, the Walnut House has these phenomenal wall projections, and I have a guy named Dustin Leipert who builds beautiful projections on the wall.
It's outrageous.
It's 285 degrees of amazingness. This year it's Tinseltown, it's Hollywood glamour. So
It's a red
we got
carpet event.
We got red carpet. We have an after-party speakeasy. We have Brianna Bozeman. We also have Jonathan Gower and his band.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be a.
So give us dates, times, tell everybody how they can get involved.
It is Thursday, June 2nd. It's a school night, so eat your Wheaties.
Yeah.
But it's Thursday, June 2nd. It's at the Walnut House. The VIP party starts at 5:30. There are a few tickets, but not many left. And you can purchase them through United Way's website.
Will they be live streaming it this year?
We will
Will
not.
be live streaming?
If you
Okay.
want to get it, you
You
gotta
need to get it.
get
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
So,
get on it. Looking forward to it, June the 2nd. So tell everybody one more time, just the how-to, the wherefores.
June 2nd, Walnut House, 5:30. Go to www.yourlocaluway.org, United We Style, and get those tickets. $75 for VIP, $25 for general admission. It's the cheapest, best fun you'll have in a while.
Trust me, you will love it. You will be glad that that is part of your story. And Kara, thank you for being part of our story this morning.
Thank you.
We're
It's
so
an
glad to
honor.
have you in.
It's a real honor.
Thank you very much. We'll have you back again sometime soon.
Thank
and
you.
everyone, look for United We Style. Find it, like it, love it. You'll want some more of it. Van, roll us out.
Hi, Heidi Hawkins.